Timing Python code is useful so that you can know how long a certain section of code is taking. And you do that in a basic timer is import time. You get a start number of seconds, and then elapsed is just going to be that same start, but then you just call time again. And so this gives you the elapsed time in seconds. We're going to show a couple other methods to do this, but let's first of all just talk about why we want to time a program. So let's say we have different steps in our program, 1, 2, and 3. All right, and maybe 2 and 3 we could do those together. Right, so we have 1, we could parallelize it and do something like 2 and 3 and then join back up again. All right, but we don't, in these large and complex programs, it's sometimes hard to tell where all of the time is being taken, CPU time or other. And so maybe when we're trying to decide if we parallelize this, we want to be able to time 2 and time 3. Or maybe one of these steps is taking a long time, and maybe 2 is the culprit. Okay, it's taking a large amount of CPU, so maybe we rewrite this in number 2 in a programming language like C++ or Fortran, and then wrap it in our Python so that when we call that, that's going to be very fast, and therefore the Python program is going to be much faster or use less power. All right, so there are different reasons why we want to do this, but overall, the more that you can learn about your program and what steps are taking a long time, you're going to give it's going to give you more informed choices about what to do. All right, let's go to some Python programs, but if you just want to get to the source code for this, you can look at some examples here. There's also down below this comparison of the 3. You can just select the show source and then get the source code at the very bottom, and you can download it in raw format. All right, but let's just go through these in a little bit more detail. I have a Jupyter notebook started with here's a script that'll just concatenate these numbers together. If I change this to 100, it's going to be 0 through 99, and if it gets really large, sometimes this takes a little bit of time to be able to finish this. Okay, and so let's go up to something much higher. All right, and let's say we want to go up to, where is that, 100,000. Okay, so it was very quick. Let's say we wanted to know how long it's taking to do 100,000 numbers and stitch them together with minus signs. So let's first of all just import, we're going to import time, and then we can start our timer with time.time, and then at the very end we're going to do an elapsed and just subtract the start. And then you can print out the elapsed time or do something else with that. Okay, so to do 100,000 numbers, it was 0.023. Let's add another 0 here. Okay, that's getting a little bit larger. This is going to be a huge string, okay? It looks like every time you add a 0, it just increases by 10 times here on the amount of time that it takes. But let's go ahead and use a couple other methods as well. One other method that you can use, this is new to Python 3.7, is the nanoseconds function. All right, and this is going to return an integer instead of in seconds. So this is going to be nanoseconds, 1 times 10 to the 9th, nanoseconds per second. And then you can get it just back to, if you want to convert this back, you could do convert it back to a float, and then 1e to the 9th. Okay, just divide it by that. And that's basically 0. All right. Let's see, where did I go wrong here? All right, there it is. Maybe it's because it's too fast. Let's go up to something bigger. All right, there we go with 1 million. All right, so you can get the nanoseconds. There are other timers as well that you can use. I just want to show you some of those. Timeit is another one that you can use. This one is nice if you just have one line that you want to time. So for example, if I did something like timeit dot timeit, all right, and I want to run this a couple additional times. I have to put this in here as a string. Okay, so I'm going to be timing this function, single quotes here, and then comma, and then I can do the number of times I want to run it, and then it's going to report something from that. Okay, so it's going to run it. Number of times is equal to 5. If I do 10 times, okay, so there it ran it 10 times, and you can see the statistics of how long it took to do it that many times. Okay, sometimes you want to increase this number because one time it's going to do a certain amount, and the next time it's going to do a little bit more, a little bit less. So this helps you get a better statistic on how it's going to perform overall. Okay, so if I do print on that, okay, it's going to give me the same number there. So let's go on to another method. You got timeit, but let's say, let me just undo some of this. Okay, and we can, with timeit as well, we can use the timeit function, which is timeit dot default timer. And just online, some people have said this is the most accurate one for a particular computer. I'm not sure about that. I've had the best luck with time.time, but let's go ahead and just get the import timeit. Okay, I just need to change that to timeit. Alright, so here it is with timeit, and we had the time as well. Let's use datetime now. Datetime is just a little bit trickier with this, and I'll show you why, because you have it in datetime format. Okay, I'll just do import datetime, and our start is now going to be the datetime.datetime.now, and then when we end, we're going to do the same thing, datetime.now, and this gives it in datetime format. So what we need to do at this point is just convert it to seconds. And so that's going to be total seconds. And then we could print the elapsed. Now if I leave off the total seconds, then you're going to see it in this form, which is a datetime format. So just convert it to total seconds, and then it gets it back to something that's comparable to what we saw before. Alright, so that's it for this one. If you want to get the full source code again, and I evaluated this on a number of these, n goes from 0 up to 1,000,000 in this case, and then it shows the amount of time as you increase that for the function. So this is an example of scaling up to a more complex program, and The other thing, oh, there's one other thing I was going to mention. Process time uh, excludes any kind of a sleep time. So in this one, in the source code, you'll just see I added a sleep time here, 0.02, just to show that if you include a sleep time in there, this process time excludes that sleep time. So it's like only the CPU time that it's using. When it's sleeping, it's not using the CPU, and so therefore you can exclude that from the amount of CPU time that it's taking. So it's a little bit less. I found that this one, process time, has more of these kind of discrete jumps here. It doesn't have quite the resolution that some of these other methods have, and so you can see that here in the plot that once you get past a certain threshold, then it jumps up, like 0.04, 0.035 might be the increment that it's dealing with on the process time.